I don't know what the fuck you guys are thinking. You don't ever talk about my band again. What's this honest brutality shit anyway?
Honest brutality.
Hey, this is Dan Johnson. You're listening to Honest Brutality.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Honest Brutality. I'm your host, Evil, and I am joined by my co-hosts.
This is Big Sloppy.
And this is Camera Rebel.
And the Butcher.
And we have a special guest on the line. We have Dan Johnson, drummer extraordinaire.
What's up, dudes?
Hey, he called you extraordinaire. How'd that feel?
Yeah, that's very nice.
Nice.
Dan, for the listening audience, let's give them a little bit of background so they know exactly who we're talking to here, because you're not Dan the drummer from any one band. So let's expand on that a little bit.
Oh, I'm playing for the band Red for the past 3 years. I was in Love and Death with Head from Korn, and played in a band called Digital Summers. I was in Seasons After for a little while, so just kind of bounce around, just play with as many people as I can.
Seasons After, I did not know that was on your docket.
Oh, yeah, I was at the short stint with those guys. It was kind of a fill-in type deal, but those are great dudes, so I did, some tours with them, and they're a great group of guys.
So this is really cool for me because I can nerd out a little bit and have drum talk.
Great.
Yeah.
So you're doing all of this stuff, and then when you're not working with one of these bands, you're teaching aspiring drummers.
Yeah, I try to teach whenever I can. I'll teach at a place called School of Rock. It's here in Scottsdale, whenever I can, and then just do independent lessons or whatever. So just whoever wants to, that sometimes that slows down when you tour. When you tour a lot, that kind of slows down a little bit, but when you're home for a while, then you can kind of pick up students. So.
Hey, Dan, you're down in Scottsdale, and we've been seeing this a lot lately. It seems like the old days used to be the musicians were hanging out in L.A. and that area, but these days it seems like Arizona's the hotbed.
It can be, yeah. It's like it's a little more affordable than L.A. and it's I think it's a lot nicer. But I mean, it's like I love L.A., but it's so congested and expensive and everything. And this is just a short drive away. So
yeah, I hated LA when I lived there, man. I hated it with a passion. But you just don't see Arizona. I'm thinking metal. I'm thinking Arizona.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
and we're looking at you. There's several bands coming out of there right now. Insight, Mercosette, Tribulence, Dead. All these other bands are popping up out there. Oh yeah, and we're seeing that, and it's just unique to me. I guess we need to maybe veer away from the traditional areas of music popping up and start really concentrating on the Arizona area.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, and then, with the internet and everything, I guess, anywhere is pretty much, you can get your music from any location, really. So,
yeah, that's a good point.
Arizona's cool, and Nashville's become like the new hot spot, really, so I spent a lot of time out there too. So
in Nashville?
Yeah, Nashville. Yep, that's where Red's based out of. So that's where
okay.
Which is a great city too. It's a little less congested than LA, but
it's a fun town. I've actually been there a little bit and enjoyed my time there. It's interesting you say Nashville because everybody thinks country music automatically, but you're right. It has changed a lot. There's a lot of good rock bands coming to that area now.
Right.
Who are you currently working with the most right now?
Red has been on, a little bit of a break because they're finishing their sixth record, and so that touring will pick up, in a couple months here, and then, I'll try to play with some, a couple country artists I can when I'm not, when I'm not playing with the metal stuff, and just try to stay busy.
Wow, so you really do stay pretty active.
I try to, when I'm fortunate, enough to, it's always about just hustling and kind of just making sure people know you're available and everything. So,
Dan, let's back up for a second. You said you're playing a little bit in country bands?
I love country music. I love all country, old, new, whatever. I love it.
Okay, now this is interesting to me because we're here talking about these killer rock bands that you're part of, and you mentioned country, and the Nashville thing kind of makes sense there. But country pays, doesn't it?
It does, and it's that's what's popular right now, and it's just the shows are fun. I was telling someone like country's become the new '80s rock, like because the shows are big, like the people are they're out, they're drinking, having fun. It's like there's lots of money in that genre. I don't know, it's become like the new party scene, I guess.
Great point.
And there's a lot more ladies in that audience than there are rock shows. Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Thank you.
So, Dan, looking back in retrospect, you have accomplished a lot in a lot of different bands, and you're fairly young as well. At what point in your life did you look back and go, holy cow, look what I've done and the legacy that you're leaving?
Well, I'm happy and feel very grateful for things that I've been able to do, but I'm just getting started. That's the attitude I have. So I'm just like, I feel very lucky, but I also feel like, all right, what's next? Like I'm ready for the next challenge, the next chapter. Like there's so much more I want to do, and I want to take it to like the next level. So, I'm just kind of like, okay, I've kind of built my platform. Now I want to take it to the next level. So
absolutely. It'd be really interesting to see you at the age 50, 60 and kind of reflect back on your accomplishments then.
Yeah, just sitting at the bar at some old country bar talking to people.
Exactly, right?
Well, what is the next level for you? What in your mind, what's the goal set?
I just to play with like the biggest artists you can think of. That's what I want to do. Just like the biggest names you can think of.
Yeah, like
so that's my goal.
You're doing a lot of the tour work. Do you do a lot of the studio work? Are you actively participating in the writing process with any of these bands? And if not, does that bother you? Do you want to?
It does not bother me. I'll do the studio work, but as far as the writing goes, with a lot of the bands, like a hired gun. So like, you're just brought in to kind of just handle the drumming needs and that's it. So it doesn't bother me because, it was actually like when I grew up and stuff, like I was always dreaming about playing other people's music anyway. So it's not something, I've never really been a writer. Someday in my life, I'd like to change that, but, I'm okay with just playing, just handling, making sure they're getting the best drums possible, whatever for their music. That's fine with me. So.
Yeah, and we've seen some of your videos. You're a machine back there. You're like a human metronome. I mean, you are on it, on point, in the pocket.
Man. Thank you.
I'm probably going to get a lot of trouble because one of our personalities, Marty Wilcox, he's a drummer for a band called Hypnostic. He's been on the scene for years out of Los Angeles, and he's probably going to be pissed that he's not here talking to you right now because it could go nerd talk real fast with 3 drummers.
Yeah, that's all we need. Yeah, great.
A lot of times we'll ask bands about their schooling and maybe a moment they've had with a band teacher, but you're a musical teacher for several students. So I want to flip the question a little bit. What's the most memorable moment you've had so far with a student?
Well, I don't know. Like, I think it's cool when kids like want to learn like some cool metal tunes. Like when they want to learn like kind of double kick, whatever. I don't know. Just I like I'll do some classes that are just about stick tricks. So it's like literally just about to teaching kids how to like throw the sticks around and stuff like that. And that's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Flash class.
absolutely.
Yeah. I remember I got yelled at because I told a kid that drumming was more important than his schoolwork and he should practice before he does his homework. That was not liked by the parents, but sorry.
Where the hell were you when I was a kid, man?
Right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When did you know, growing up, when did you know that this is what you wanted to do, and when did you start working towards it?
Well, I started playing when I was a kid, but I didn't really start learn how to play like songs and playing in bands until I was in high school. But then I started, maybe fall in love with playing. But then like I went on my first tour when I was 21, and so and that was with a band called the Sanisteria. I was out of Phoenix, and I was with that band for 2 years, and we went out and cut my teeth and a van, sleeping in parking lots and whatever, and just,
Right.
Playing for enough money to get to the next town, but I was in love with it, and I knew I'd never do anything else. So it was about then, like 21, 22.
Dan, I got to tell you, you're unique to us here, because typically when we have somebody on, a musician, they are locked into a band.
They're affiliated.
A
tightly.
single band.
Right.
Yeah, and they're trying to promote that band. You're very unique in the aspect that you're all over the map.
And I dig it.
Yeah. And you're freelance. You're all about getting out there, and it sounds like you really enjoy being on the road to some degree. Is that true?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love it. There's nothing better to me. So
Out on the road. Yeah,
I love it.
And it makes sense. And listen to you talk a little bit. It's unique to me though, because you're not here to promote one particular band. You're like, this is who I am. I'm here. I'm there. I'm everywhere, and I'm just living life and loving it. It's totally different. This is kind of a different take.
That's it.
Yeah, it's definitely got a killer vibe.
Thanks, man. You know, and sometimes it can come off, you know, some people can look at it as like, you know, you're being, you know, you show loyalty to nobody, but that's not the case. You know, I just like, always like, I don't like time off. You know what I mean? Like, I like to just, you know, be working with, you know, whoever, whenever, and just keep stay at it. So.
Well, you've managed to catch the attention of a lot of major players and be involved in their projects. And if I'm not mistaken, you also locked down Endorsements without necessarily being a solo studio player or a solo artist. I mean, an artist just in one band, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. You know, because like a lot of these, you know, they want to see like dates, and they want to see, you know, like you're out playing a lot. So, you know, if you're touring a lot and you're working a lot, then, you know, then you can get the attention of some companies, you know. But so I'm slowly starting to build up, you know, more endorsements and stuff, and one by one.
Do you have a different preferred set that you take on each thing that you do, or is it always the same standard setup for you?
It's usually the same standard setup. Like, you know, I'll change up like my cymbal selection for like, you know, playing from like metal to country or whatever, but like for the most part, it's just like the same setup. I play a 4-piece with a, you know, double kick and 5 cymbals, so it's just I keep it nice and simple.
Right.
Nice. So it can be so visually you can see everything, and I like, you know, I like the less is more type thing.
Right. Okay, so on the double kick, I've listened, and you got some amazing tight feet that are right on point. Do you ever try to sneak it in the country shows?
I will try to, and it's sometimes it's not perceived very well, especially when you're playing like some, you know, like old school, like classic rock or classic country type places. And they kind of be a little scared of it, but you know, I'll try whenever I can. You know, the more and more with the new country, it's getting introduced. So.
It is. I noticed. Yeah,
it kind of is. But I could just see doing some old Johnny Cash speed metal version. You know.
Well, I'm not saying blast beats. I'm just saying throwing the like quads in on a fill just to see what people do. That's pretty fantastic. What are you doing right now? What's the next thing for Dan?
Some touring with Red and stuff. Until then, just constant touring.
The burning question: what's going on with Love and Death? Is there an album in the works?
Yeah, there is. We're going to get it done. Yeah, you know, sometimes I feel like it's that Guns N' Roses album, the Chinese Democracy. Like it took them years and years. That's exactly what I
Please don't compare it to that thing, man.
I swear,
dude.
It's going to get done. I swear. So we're I know JR and Head, and you know they're doing the guitars and stuff now, and then I'll go in and do the drums whenever they're ready. And the guy producing it is Jason Rouse from Breaking Benjamin. He did the first Love and Death record too. You know, I'm just waiting till they're ready. So we are going to get it done this year.
Everything that you read from late 2016 is kind of in anticipation of the next.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's interesting how well that band was received. I think it surprised even Brian, really, because he did that solo project and then sort of rebranded with Love and Death, if I'm not mistaken. And
right, yeah.
I don't think he anticipated the level of fandom and followers that it would have.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, we really started to build up some good momentum, and I think I love the music, and I really hope that we can, you know, make, you know, something happen with it again. Whether it's just, you know, I think at this point it's just going to be a studio thing. You know, because he's with Korn full time, and you know, JR's an Islander, and I'm doing, you know, these things. So it's just getting everyone to, you know, line up right. And you know, I think it's just going to be a studio thing. But I really loved, you know, building a fan base with that band, and then getting it to go on tour with Korn for the whole like last year of that band. You know, we were out with Korn opening up, and that was incredible.
Right, and he was pulling double duty on those nights.
Right. Yeah, there'd always be a band in between, so he can get like a little bit of a break. But.
Yeah. Well, maybe what you ought to do is you ought to go out with opening, and then you do a drum solo in the middle, and then Korn comes on.
Yeah. Perfect. There we go. That works for me. That works for me.
Dan's out there doing Indigata Davida live 25-minute solo just to give everybody a break.
Do you get opportunities to do drum solos very often?
Sometimes, you know, like with Love and Death, I would do them, and then with Red, it's only usually when they need to fix something. So then I'll get one, and when there's something wrong with the gear or the track or something, then I do a drum solo. So
it seems to sort of be a lost art, though. It was almost expected at big shows in the late 80s and
in the 80s, man. It was guaranteed you were going to get a
drum solo, guitar solo, and literally a solo.
Big time, there was solo.
Everyone got one. And the band walk off stage, and the bass player and the singer are like, "Hell yeah, this is great, man. We don't have to do nothing. We're getting
take shots."
The drummer's out there worn out.
Yeah, they can take a break. You know, but you know, honestly, like anything more than like 3 minutes long, and I'm struggling for ideas. Like, that seems like an eternity.
You know what's funny, Dan, is back in those days, you judged a concert and the quality of a drummer by that solo.
Yeah.
Because if that solo sucked,
exactly.
you knew.
Yep.
You knew.
Yeah, that guy didn't even do a 5-minute solo.
Oh, and it was it was just repetitive and boring. He didn't do anything. Yeah. And which I mean, you got to look at somebody like Tommy Lee and what he does, and
upside down,
be in awe, because I think that's pretty impressive personally.
Yeah, I do too.
Especially the solo we saw where his roller coaster got stuck upside down.
Right.
And that guy was a total pro. He was like, "Oh, hey, look, I'm hanging upside down. How's it going? What's going on down there?" You know, it was totally cool. He was awesome.
Yeah, how did he not pass out? Like I was.
Hey, okay. Speaking of situations like that, Dan, have you had a moment in that vein where it's been kind of awkward? Something happened, you just went awry, and you had to roll with it.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's things like where the tracks will start. I mean, they'll start skipping or whatever. Like I don't know. There's because I mean, as you know, like most bands like use the tracks now, and just embrace it. Not trying to hide it. Just embrace it. But so that happens a lot. But
you don't try to skip along with it.
Yeah, no. I mean, you can try, but like usually after that, I have to just shut them off because if try to jump back on, it ends up being a train wreck. So I mean, that's definitely happened a few times. The words will start skipping or something. It's ridiculous, but I remember one time, in particular, Vinnie Paul was watching us. This was on a Red tour, and I was so pumped, but I had my wallet chain on, and I usually don't play with it on, but I had it on still, and it got stuck in the grates on the drum riser, and I couldn't get up to get on the riser in time, and I was just super embarrassed, and I was like, of course that would happen.
Oh my god!
Like it's ridiculous.
And you got
Vinnie Paul. Who's Vinnie Paul?
Yeah, never heard of him.
Yeah,
never
heard
heard
that guy.
Yeah.
Oh no, never. The Godfather's right there.
Yeah, right.
It's very common for me to have embarrassing moments because I'm very clumsy and oblivious. So
at least you're embracing
daily occurrence. Yes.
You've done a lot of touring. What is one of the most craziest things that you've seen out there while you've been on the road?
Someone took off a prosthetic leg for us to sign once. I was like, that's pretty weird. I was like, come on. But honestly, I don't know. It's not as crazy as people think. Like, I remember, growing up and watching all these documentaries and stuff, and how wild it was, and how these people are just going nuts out there and everything. And so when I started touring, I was like, wait a second, this isn't like what I thought it'd be. Like this is which is fine, but
crew's full of BS, man. Ain't nothing like that.
Yeah, and those days are long gone. I'll say that.
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God. That's right. Yeah, some of the things you used to hear. Holy cow, man.
So can you remember the first time you played to a large crowd? And, tell us what that experience is like. You as a drummer, just like looking out at the crowd going, holy cow, look at all these people. What does that feel like?
It feels amazing. You feel like you're nervous and you feel like really disconnected because you can't, really see anyone's face or anything. But, the first big show was back in 2008. It was in Idaho Falls. It was with that band, the Sam Mystery, that first band I was touring with. But then, the first, some of the festivals we did when I joined Head's band were, those were probably my first really big shows. And, those were, I remember it correctly. It was a benefit for Chi, one of the guys from the Deftones.
Uh-huh.
It was a benefit show for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that. It was huge, thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I just remember that it was crazy. I don't know what I like better, the big ones or like the small intimate club shows. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like my playing's better on the smaller ones because I'll psych myself out of the big shows. You know what I mean?
Right. You overthink
I'll
it.
Overthink it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Time, so.
And that's interesting from one drummer to another. I know for a fact when we played bigger shows, I made sure I stuck to the script. I played.
Oh yeah, you're not trying out anything. Yeah.
Right. But in the smaller club, you're like, you know what? I always wanted to kind of see what this fill would do right here. What the hell? And, you could kind of expand on your playing a little bit and add some flavor and have some fun. So maybe that's part of it too.
Yep, big time.
What's the biggest challenge you're met with as a drummer in the vein of work that you do?
You want to make sure something's by the book. If a band wants it by the book, you want to make sure you know every detail, on the CD, how they want it, which I like doing. But It's just about being able to get along with every type of personality too.
Right.
Likability, and then just being able to adapt quickly. Okay, so the biggest challenge, that's what it is. Like learning, like instantly, like being able to listen to an album and try to learn it like overnight, which is, is damn near impossible. But I'm trying to. That's like the ultimate goal, is to be able to just kind of get like that, because that's how the seasoned pros are. So
yeah.
That's probably the biggest challenge.
You touched on something there, and I kind of want to expand on a little bit, and that would be the personalities. Is that sometimes also a challenge? Like when you get into a band or you're working with someone and there's a conflict of interest with personalities?
Like for myself, fortunately, I like to think that I can get along with just about anybody. I can put up with anybody. I can, especially if I'm an employee, whatever, like I can, people can be however they want to be. I don't care. Like I'll be fine. But, that is huge though, because you're stuck with someone for, you're in a van or a bus, and like you're on stage with them, and then you're around them 24 hours a day. So as long as that is a huge part of it, yeah.
It's always been my experience that drummers are just a-holes, man.
Yeah. Now
we get a bad rap.
He's talking to me.
Let me disclose that Big Sloppy is a singer. So there you have it.
There it is.
Hey,
you are
whoa.
welcome. You are welcome.
Whoa, easy, Tiger. Actually, it's been quite the opposite. The drummers always seem to be the most level-headed guys in the band for the most part.
Well, they have to be the backbone.
That's true. They are the backbone, and they're the driving force. You were talking about challenges. I was wondering, the appearance anyway. I can't speak because I'm not a drummer, but the appearances, because you were talking about playing country music, that seems just like a more meat and potatoes, basic.
Oh no, it depends on the band. In my opinion,
Right. It would depend on like the new country stuff is definitely more, like the drumming's more like rock drumming, the same sense. But like playing old school country, when I remember one of the biggest challenges was, having to learn how to play so soft that people could have dinner in front of you. You know what I mean? Because you're playing in a place
Right.
that's like, and that's what, now I love it. At the time I was like, well, this is a drag, but like now, I fell in love with it. So, and it's about dynamics, and it's like the song structure is different, and
right.
It's really cool. It's about listening to each other. You can't play with tracks and stuff all the time because you have to listen to every single musician on stage, and I really like that.
Yeah, and there's also a huge difference in the dynamics of the actual playing itself, the structure. So it's not always a 4/4 time. There's a lot of shuffle and swing beats that are thrown in and that kind of thing.
Right, and sometimes the guitar player will want to go on a solo that's like 16 measures long. Sometimes he'll go on one that's 4 measures long. You just have to listen, and just
right.
It's it'll change every night. So
absolutely. Wait, when you're out there playing, do you usually have a tech with you, or do you tech your own stuff?
No, I usually tech my own. Like we have guys that load everything, but as far as like setting up and stuff, and I have to pay for that. So it's like,
yeah.
I just don't. I can't justify paying someone to set up a 4-piece kit. And like, I don't know, maybe someday, but not today.
Yeah. Well, and I saw a little something. You had done a couple of different things with like Modern Drummer and that kind of thing, and I've always really enjoyed that, especially when it comes to things like, a lot of people don't realize in the drum world, there is not necessarily any one established way to do certain things like tuning drums. Tuning drums is not, hey, you put the tuner on and you hit this note. It's a different animal for everybody. So do you have like a prescribed way that Dan does it, or do you do it some way you were taught?
I was in Drumline, so I just tuned the same way I did when I was in Drumline. So I just pretty much cranked the heck out of it. So it's like
good bounce,
super tight, and that's pretty much it.
So you're going for the bounce,
right? Exactly, exactly.
Are you a pretty heavy hitter?
Yeah, so I like I hit hard. One of the best tips I ever got was announce every note, like hit every note like you meant to hit it, and just kind of don't be a timid player, just don't hang back. It's kind of you don't have to overpower anybody when you don't need to, but just kind of but yeah, like hit every make every strike the same, consistent, not one less than the other. So
I've
always been into those hard hitting guys.
Are you swinging baseball bats back there, or you get
big lumber? What kind of sticks?
Yeah, dude, I play Excel sticks. They're 5/8, but they're super durable, and they I do swing for the fences, So.
Nice.
I like that.
What are some of your favorite songs to play live?
That's tough because I love all the red stuff. It's tough, anything really, but I like the new red stuff we've been doing, and super fun drums. So it's a blast.
You mentioned that you were on a Drumline. Being a band kid myself in high school, there's one movie that pretty much everybody who goes through high school band, at least in this generation, has to watch sometimes more than once. So what is your opinion on the movie Drumline, or how do you feel about it, or how many times have you seen it?
I saw it once. I liked it. I wish they would have shown more. What I didn't like was like it was just me, or was like the all the drumming shot separate than them showing like the actual actors, like so like their hands weren't seen and then they show like
right.
someone's hand, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like I wish they would have had more of the actual drum lines. But it's just cool, I liked it.
Let's name, like, I don't know, pick 2, pick 3 top drummers in your opinion all time.
Ooh, all right. I like Tommy Clufetos, who plays for Black Sabbath now, but he also plays for Rob Zombie's band. I like Vinnie Paul, obviously. I like Blas Elias from Slaughter. He was one of my favorites.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's a call out you don't hear
That
very
is
often.
a very interesting shout out. I don't know if I've ever heard him called out before.
I don't think I have.
Zoltan Chaney too. That's that's probably my my number. That had to be. I'd have to move into my number one spot right now because like that guy is just freaking incredible.
That's amazing.
He plays for Vince Neil's band and Slaughter. He's actually the new drummer in Slaughter.
Huh.
Super flashy, like you wouldn't believe, man.
And he has a superhero name.
Right.
Zoltan was the fortune teller machine in Big.
Yeah, I don't know. Just to me, it's like
or was that Zoltar? I don't remember.
To me, it's just like Zoltan. Like we're gonna change your name to Zoltan.
There you go.
Right.
It's really cool for me to get to talk to another drummer and just really kind of pick their brain. It's neat. Well, we do with singers all the time,
I know,
so you back off me.
Dude,
you back off.
believe me, this is just good fodder for me. I'm loving it.
Let's go back to some of the classic drummers. Like, who were the ones when you were growing up who really stood out?
I started listening to like 80s rock was good. I didn't really go before that, when I was a kid. So like, the 90s were big for me. Alice in Chains, like Sean Kinney from Alice in Chains, one of my favorites too. And then, like, Dave Grohl, obviously.
Yes, sir.
And John Humphrey from Seether, I've been watching him for a long time. He's, one of my favorites too. So just, those are some of the guys who, but then like all the, bands from the new metal era, like, late 90s, early 2000s, that's probably my most influential era for me. Like was what shaped me, or what got me into music was bands from, that time. So like David from Korn, like the original Korn drummer, like, he was one of my favorites and,
because they kind of changed the face of the scene with the big grooves and the heavy pocket.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can see that.
That kind of makes sense too. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's right around your teenage years, coming into really getting heavy into the music playing.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay.
So now, how was that? I mean, you said the drummer from Korn is, is one of your favorite drummers amongst many. But how was it going on tour with them for you?
Oh, it was awesome, and it was incredible. They're great guys, and they're a powerhouse. There's bands like those days of bands being that big. I mean, I don't know, because we went over to Europe with them too and everything, and like they're just they're incredible. And the drummer they have now, Ray, he's phenomenal too, and he's a great guy, and unbelievable. But they were super cool to learn from, and kind of be on the road with, and just. So it was really cool. It was surreal. It was a lot of fun.
So if you were to go back 20 years and give yourself advice, what would that advice be?
Let's see. Let's see here.
Don't date Tina.
It would be don't waste so much time, going after all the BS that comes along with this lifestyle. You catch my drift. You know what I mean? That'd probably be my
right. Yeah.
That'd be my first piece of advice, and second piece of advice would be to use YouTube and the social media. Like get on that stuff. Start using that stuff more because it's like the world revolves around that stuff now. And I feel like a caveman sometimes. To figure out how to.
Even what we do, I feel like we're way behind the 8 ball with the YouTube train. I'm like, oh man, did we miss it?
Yeah, I feel like I did. Like, it's ridiculous.
Man, I would still be using a rotary phone if I could. That's where I'm at.
Jesus. Yes, you would.
How do people reach out and get a hold of Dan? How do they talk to you? How do they find your music? And how do they hire you?
Well, they can, on Facebook.com/Dan Johnson Drummer, or, just, the email, everything's on there, like the emails, everything through there. So, I mean, that's probably the easiest way. I'm on Instagram, too, under the same thing, and I'm checking it, like, hourly, so.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, this has been Dan Johnson, amazing drummer with all kinds of bands. It's just so cool to be able to talk to somebody that does what you do. It's interesting for us. It's new. It's refreshing. Thanks again for taking the time, Dan.
Thank you very much, man. I had a great time.
Dan Johnson is a lot of fun.
It was definitely way different from what we're used to.
I dig it.
It was actually really refreshing.
Yeah.
Regular rock and roll mercenary, I guess. What you
Good
can
way
call
to
him.
put. Well, rock and roll and country, mercenary.
Hey, you know what?
Country is kind of rock music. A little bit.
He made a great point, and we've made the same point on our show in the past, how it's basically the 80s hair metal now meets country music.
Well, with the
way they
popularity
do it.
level, and the money's there.
Oh, yeah,
And,
absolutely.
Enjoys it. Absolutely.
I dig that.
And I could imagine it's probably a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There's a lot more ladies in that crowd. I'm just saying.
Yeah, a lot of good old boys that like to buy you a beer, too.
Yeah, 2 cans of beer.
Yep. Free and cold.
Free and cold, baby.
That's right. Well, this has been another episode of Honest Brutality. Thank you so much for tuning in. Whatever podcast directory you're listening to us on, there's a couple things you can do that really help us out. They are
Rate, review, and subscribe.
That's right. You can also check out all things Honest Brutality on honestbrutality.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can also find us on all of our socials, the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitter. You can call us.
Yeah, 530-962-0411. Is that country enough for you?
That's right.
530-962-0411.
That was what you didn't even get it right.
Maybe Southern Rebel can say that number for us in real country.
No way.
She's not here today, man.
No.
You can also check out, we have shows on Rock Rage Radio on Saturday and Tuesday, respectively. Check out our website for the times and details there. In the meantime, be good people, take care of one another, and most importantly,
Stay metal.